You are looking live at the Nasdaq daily chart, which was down $50 today, or 50 points and 0.32%, and closed at 15,580. The volume was a little lighter than yesterday. You can see, though, that it is making lower lows here on the index. If I zoom in here, it just closed right at its 21 EMA. The green line is the 10, which it sliced on Tuesday, and this magenta line is the 21, which it closed right at the 21 and 2.6% above this rising 50 SMA. So you don't really want an index making lower lows. I mean, it's in a correction. Obviously, it made this high at 16,080 on February 12th, and it's been in a correction ever since. You know, it had that reversal bar and then came down. That reversal bar usually leads to, lower prices, made a high, then reversed lower, kind of like our SMCI, and then just made a lower low, bounced a little bit, but now the index is making lower lows in consecutive days here. So that's definitely something to watch. Definitely a caution, a sign of caution, a sign to, be more careful with your entries and to be taking more profits. You've heard of the William O'Neill turkey story where the boy had 12 turkeys and he was waiting for one more to go in, and then one ran out. And then he said he's going to wait for that one to come back, and three more ran out, and the turkeys kept running out, and he was left with zero turkeys. So you don't want to be left with any turkeys. You want to cash in on those turkeys. I had a subscriber who said he was up, 50 grand in 2024, and then he texted me it's 40. Now it's 30. I'm thinking, man, he's going to text me tomorrow saying he's back to even. So you don't want to be back to even. So you got to take profits, lock in some of these profits, and be careful with new buys, because the new buys are probably going to be your first sells in this type of a market. But anything can happen and things can change, especially I'm going to get to that here in a minute. But I want to go through some of these stocks here, which I normally cover, the Fab Five or the Magnificent Seven or the Super Six, whatever you want to call them. This is Apple. Once again, below its 200, not interested in that. Warren Buffett selling. They've got problems. Mainly they have no growth, zero growth, -1, +2. That's not going to get anybody excited. It's turning into just a value stock. Microsoft, it pulled back to its 21 today. Um, Closed just a tick below the 21. Still looks pretty good to me. I mean, you want to see it, obviously, with the Nasdaq correcting the way it has been, and it down 0.32% today. You got to expect your growth stocks to be down 1% or more. And Microsoft is a borderline growth stock here. At least it's got, 13 and 18% sales growth here. So I think it's going to be okay. It looks a little better after hours. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Meta Platforms, any stock above its 10 EMA with this current market environment is doing pretty well. And then this is Meta Platforms, and it just traded down to its 10 EMA today, just forming a shelf here, which indicates that, institutions aren't selling. They're not, buying demand, but there's not selling pressure either. So Meta looks fine. Amazon going into the Dow Jones. Whoopee. I mean, it didn't do much for Salesforce. The first year Salesforce went in for ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil had the best year in a long time, and Salesforce suffered. But Amazon's going into the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I want to say February 26th. Oh, well, yeah, we wish the Amazon longs good luck. I think I use Amazon like basically every day. Google, let's take a look at the Google chart because it was kind of struggling here. Looks like it's trying to find support at the 50 here. Google, and this one's doing okay after hours as well. So maybe we'll get a bounce tomorrow off the 50. The market sure has, been taking a breather recently, so maybe it's ready to rock and roll tomorrow. So that's the five that I'm going to cover here. I am going to get to the semiconductor stocks, which has really been struggling. This is AMD after hours doing pretty well, but man, this thing pulled back below its 21, sliced it yesterday, and just had a little nothing burger day today. Just looks like a little inside day, but man, AMD's got to get back above the 21 here. This stock is just really a bear. Yesterday the low was what was it, 162. Today was 161.81, so it undercut the low. It was not an inside day, but still back above 168 in after hours, which takes it not above the 121. It's got to get to like 169 tomorrow, but we'll keep our eye on AMD. Broadcom. This one's up in after hours as well. This one just closed right there at its 21, just a tick above it today. Broadcom looks fine. It looks pretty good. SMCI, I'm going to get to this one. I didn't cover it yesterday. I just want to point out when a stock, this one's up nicely after hours as well. When a stock gaps and gaps and gaps, had a climax top. When any stock, when it gaps higher and it undercuts the low of the gap, like the low on this day was 917. Once it gets below the gap, and it's most likely going to fill this gap. And this is very gappy. It had two gaps, another one here at 800, and it undercut the 800, which is good. A gap fill, then an inside day today. So to me, this looks pretty good for tomorrow. It had 3 days of selling and obviously up. And I'm going to get to that. After hours looks pretty good for Supermicro. I'm going to move on here. I'm going to talk about these gap plays because we're getting quite a few of them, and some of them are failing and some of them are doing, better than others. Monday, this one slices 21 today. That's not ideal. It's been pretty strong, but like I said, in this market, these stocks above the leaders are, I shouldn't say leaders, the stronger stocks are holding above their moving averages, and the weaker ones are slicing them. So Monday is slicing them. So that's no bueno. Datadog is the next one I want to cover. And this one's sliced. It's 10, it's 21. Now pull back to its 50. Maybe it'll find support there. And maybe that 124 area will be an area of interest, 124.69. Looks like it's, right around there today. So, yeah, Datadog, maybe it'll bounce off its 50. That's what we're looking for. Stocks that pull back and bounce, find support. These pullbacks are great educational days to find out where support is on your stock. Service now looked like it traded down to its 50 and bounced. That's what you want to see right there with service. Now I got to get to Snow. This is now with an S. Sliced its 21, but tried to hang on there towards the end of the day. And it looks like tomorrow may recover above the 21, which is 217.21 today. We'll have to wait and see on that one. And Palantir sliced its 10, so it's got to recapture that moving average tomorrow. The 10 starting to curl down. This one gapped up. This is one of the ones I'm talking about. See, the low of the gap is 1976, and if it breaches this low of the gap day, then you can expect it to fill that gap at 1787, which is a trip that I don't think most longs want to take there. And we're just going to have to watch Palantir. I'm going to get to that in a minute, though. There's a couple other stocks I want to cover. IOVA, I keep posting this on Twitter. Nobody's really interested in this stock, but there was a guy, Wayne Rothbaum, who bought 5 million shares, not $5 million worth, 5 million shares. It was, I don't know, $45 million, almost $50 million worth, but he owns 28 million shares now. This is a big whale. They got approved for a drug. I put this on the ready list over the weekend because I was hoping that it would pull back, but it just didn't. It hasn't. I don't think it's going to. They had a secondary offering, gapped up yesterday, and then, blasted another 31% today. So, yeah, with the big whales, there's a ton of insider buying on this thing. The directors are buying it. And this guy, Rothbaum, who's been a pretty successful biotech investor, like I said, bought 5 million shares. I think it was like $45 million. You got it just under $10. But anyway, when the whales start buying that really pushes this thing higher. If I just look at the weekly, it'll give me the shares in the float, which is 227 million. They had a secondary offering as well, but definitely this stock is in demand. And this is the turkey story right here. If you own this one, if you got it, before the breakout, or even if you bought it yesterday, if it's up 31%, this is where you got to, lower the turkey trap and capture those turkeys and take those profits to the bank. Don't let them get away. Lilly was downgraded today. The cover your ass downgrade, where they downgrade the stock, then raise the price target like $50, and then the stock sells off. So the downgrade worked. It came down to its 10 EMA, found support there. The 10 is 741. It closed at 745. After hours 749. So it worked. If a firm's trying to get shares a little cheaper, they downgrade the stock and you can buy it a little cheaper. Pulls back to the 10, and then it's probably gonna resume its uptrend. Like I said, any stock above the 10 is strong in this tape. While the market corrects. Novo Nordisk, this one pulled back, closed above its 10 though. Yeah, 0.5% above the 10. This one just trending higher. Looks fine. It doesn't trade like the other stocks after hours. It's an ADR and it kind of trades a little different. VTYX is I normally don't deal with stocks below $5 or $10 even. This one had some data, weight loss in the weight loss category, and it was up 68% today. Just thought I'd point that out because it took the Viking, which is in the weight loss area as well. They're going to have a couple of readouts here in this first quarter, so this is definitely one to watch. Got a little ahead of itself. It's still 9.9% above this rising 10 EMA. So, but if they have positive trial data, this thing's going to trade higher. I'm not saying how much higher, but it will trade higher. Toll Brothers had a nice report today. There was some nice news on reports today. I was kind of impressed. Toll Brothers was one of them. It closed kind of, towards the low of the day, 15% of the daily range, but still the market was very weak today. And for it to have a 4% gain, we'll take it, right? Lennar is another one in this group that I like. Traded down to its 50 and then bounced. I have a buy point there at 150. I think it might have taken off the ready list, but still, that one looks fine. Pulte Homes, these are rate sensitive. So, it's good to hear Toll Brothers say what they had to say. They're more of a high-end builder, in California, and the average price of their home is over $1 million. So, anyway, Pulte Homes, this one's holding above its 50 as well. That one looks good. I did mention some earnings reports that look good. Garmin was one. Yeah, this one gapped higher. So if you're playing the gap game, the low is 128.89. You don't want it to go below that. And there's a buy point there of 129.32. So if it goes below it, it's adios muchachos. If it stays above it, then it should be good. WIX is another one. I just noticed it in the morning when I posted it. I didn't really watch it during the day, but yeah, it's up on volume. Nice move. But once again, it's got to have that gap integrity and hold that low of the day of 130.63. There's a couple other ones I just want to point out. I'm just going over gaps now from December 1st. This is Elastic. This one gapped up 37%. You could see the low of the day was 97.78. So if this thing comes below 97.78, it's probably going to fill the gap here, which is 81.66, the high of the prior day, November 30th. So you don't want it breaching this gap, and Elastic didn't. What did it do? It traded higher and then got into this consolidation, a flat base pattern, and this resumed its uptrend. Obviously, the market was great December and January. And Elastic appreciated with the market, pulled back to its 50 today. So it's definitely one to watch here. Earnings are the 29th, which is what? Next Thursday, I guess. Yeah. So another stock that gapped up on the same day as Elastic is IoT. This one bugs me. But the low of the day here was 29.63 in the gap day, and it came down to 29.80. So it came close, but did not breach the low of the day, stayed in this flat base pattern. So, if it trades below it, that's a sell sign, and it didn't. So if you're just hanging on to this one, it sliced its 50. I can't stand the way this one trades, but it has not breached the gap as of yet. So we have some more recent ones here. SHAK is one. Shake Shack gapped up on last Thursday, I believe. The low is $91, and it hasn't even come close to approaching 91 here. And if it does, you know, the gap day, the high of the prior day was 79.04. So you don't want to make that trip. You definitely want to watch that $91 level and don't let it get into this gap zone. Because when they get in there, they typically fill, and you don't want to take that trip. This is APP Lovin. Big gap up on Thursday, same day as SHAK. Made another high there the following day, but the last 2 days, obviously with the market being weak the way it has been, but you don't want to let Lovin trade below that low of 52.75. If it does, it might take that trip there to 47.30. You don't want to take that trip. Another one that gapped recently was CROX. This one gapped after earnings last week. I believe it was Friday. No, Thursday. Thursday after earnings, and the low of that day was 112.32. Today the low was 113.32, so it was $1 above. Something to watch because you don't want to take that trip down to 109.67. CROX looks pretty good to me, and you know, it was up in a really weak tape today, or at least flat, so that's a good sign. Moving averages are rising. So I'm going to continue to watch CROX. A couple of them that failed, I've got to show you what a failed one looks like. This is TENB. Software stock, it gapped higher on February 7th, a nice 6% gap. You could see the low of that day was 48.96. The next day it came close to it, it approached it, but didn't quite make it there. The low was 48.96, I said, and the low this day is 23, so it was like 27 cents. It came up above, but then what did it do? It breached the low, right? This day right here, February 13th, made a low of 48.52, which is below the low of the gap day, 48.96. Yeah, it popped back up for a couple days. What happened? It undercut and then made that trip back to the high of the prior day, 47.79, actually below that right now. So that's why I say you got to watch those gaps. You got to make sure that they stay above the low of the gap day. Path is another one that gapped, I believe, on the same day as Elastic, December 1st. Yeah, so the low is 22.13. Undercut it right here, rallied back up, which is kind of nice, right? It didn't take that trip all the way down, right? So there's no absolutes here. It did undercut the low, but it didn't make that trip down to 2031, but it still might, as today it was 22.66, and this is just consolidating in a base. They report March 13th. That's UiPath. Anyway, that's it for today, except for I lied. I have one more thing. NVIDIA reported today. This is the big kahuna for the AI, the artificial intelligence bull market, the new uptrend that we're in. And a lot of the bears are saying there's no monetization, there's very few stocks participating, blah, blah, blah. Well, this is the king, NVIDIA. And there's a lot of other companies that are monetizing the artificial intelligence. It's just going to take some time. That's why I say I think we're in the early innings of this build out, and some stocks are going to be winners, some stocks are going to be losers. It's pretty obvious. NVIDIA is going to be a winner. Their earnings report was fantastic. They had triple digit growth once again. You know, these are your comps here. I think they had 22 billion in revenues. Yeah, they crushed, they guided higher. And the stock is responding after hours, which is good to see. Sometimes companies crush and the stock doesn't respond. So a nice move after hours. It pulled back to its 21 today. It looks for sure like it's going to bounce tomorrow. You're looking to take out a high of what, 744? That would be nice, wouldn't it? 746. Let me go to the weekly here. It's easier to find on a weekly chart. 746.11. So maybe it can get there after this little pullback here. Had a little hiccup right here, and it's going to resume higher. This movement and this earnings report should buoy the Nasdaq tomorrow, so we don't get this constant drip, drip, drip of correcting and making lower lows. But the Nasdaq needed a pullback. Like I said yesterday, it's like a trip to the dentist. And what it does, big kahuna like that, it lifts the other stocks here. Is now you can see AMD's back above 170. And yeah, hopefully it's going to get back above that 21, which today was 168, and the 10 is 170. So maybe to recapture both moving averages. I don't particularly like to buy stock after hours, but I did, it looks like these are gonna be okay. I have to listen to the conference call from NVIDIA and kind of read more into their data. There's some other stocks reporting tonight, but they don't really matter in comparison to NVIDIA. NVIDIA is the big king, the big driver of this new bull market. Every time I come back here, it's up a couple more bucks, so maybe I should buy something after hours. But I'm looking for NVIDIA to take that high out of that 746 here and make new highs here. That's not very far away. So anyway, that's it for me today. Thank you for watching. Remember the turkey story. You don't have it in your account until you sell some. You got to trim something. And don't just sit there and let the market take it away from you. At mcstockcharts.com, we never give up. Thank you for watching.